During the validation of a climate change mitigation program or project, the validation and verification body performs an assessment of both the project design, commonly referred to as project description document, and the establishment of baseline scenario. When the program or project holder or developer assigns the validation process of the project to a VVB, it gets an email notification at the address provided through Cercarbono's registry platform, Eco Registry. In case a notification received does not correspond to the specific CCMP validation process, this shall be reported to Cercarbono team. The holder or developer shall make sure to upload all documents pertaining to the validation process. Otherwise, this stage cannot be initiated, and therefore the VVB will not be notified through Eco Registry. For the validation process, in addition to complying with their specific internal regulations, VVBs shall consider the guidelines included in Cercarbono's protocol and the procedures of the certification program. These documents mandate the requirements shall be implemented by VVBs. It is important to consider all items included in section Action prior to validation and verification processes of the procedures document. In particular, select a person or team meeting the required skills, competencies, and experience qualifications to carry out the process. Demonstrate compliance with ethical requirements adhering to the principles outlined in Cercarbono's protocol. Determine if the holder or developer has collected all necessary information to initiate the validation process. Design a validation and evidence collection plan for the validation team to assess data and data systems use association risks, to identify data systems flaws, and assess the impact of the diverse data flows on validation statements' materiality. Having a team leader with sufficient knowledge and experience regarding required competencies in the process, and the ability to manage the validation team to achieve the validation objectives. In carrying out the validation process, the VVB shall define with the holder or developer the commitment type and level for the validation process and, given the case, for joint validation and verification processes. A reasonable assurance level for the validation statement, stating in such way the form, scope, and evidence collection plan. The validation objectives, which in turn establish the declaration precision and conformity with Cercarbono's protocol validation process requirements. The materiality threshold for the validation process. This is established according to the level of mitigation results the CCMP generates. The scope for the validation process, including as a minimum, spatial limits, temporary limits, GHG emission source types, carbon pools, GHG leakage. Validation statement scope including validation of baseline and project scenarios, material discrepancy thresholds as required by stakeholders. Filling the signed declaration demonstrating no conflict of interest on the VVB side, considering the issuance date of such document must be 8 calendar days in advance of the start of the validation process activities. Assess CCMP does not generate net harm. The PDD shall state compliance with the provisions in safeguarding principles and procedures of Cercarbono's certification program, assess the contribution to proposed SDGs and legal authorization for the CCMP. This requires assessing the Excel tool the holder has produced. The Excel document of this tool is part of the SDGs tool package, available at www.cercarbono.com, section Documentation. In addition to including prior actions as outlined above, the VVB's validation plan development shall describe how accuracy and completeness of the PDD is to be assessed. This plan could be modified if, based on collected evidence, a material error or non-conformity is identified. Furthermore, the VVB shall develop the evidence collection plan, which shall include evidence collection plan activities for each CCMP activity to back its opinion in the report and in the validation statement. Using a risk control-based process for identifying collected evidence on each GHG-related activity. Subsequently, the validator or validation team shall present these two plans, approved by the validation team leader, to the CCMP holder or developer, notifying at the same time the field visits or remote assessment schedule. Cercarbono Certified Carbon Standard.